Welcome back, Fantasy Fiction Fanatics. It's great to see you again, and I hope you're doing well. Today's class is going to be another book discussion, and this is going to be on the second book in the Hidden Legacy series, White Hot. So last month we covered the first one, which is Burn For Me, and this time we're doing number 2, which is White Hot. Before we go ahead and jump into our actual discussion of the book, let's go ahead and go over the trivia question. Thank you to everyone who participated this week. As always, I truly appreciate you playing with me. The answer for this week's trivia is cleaning and household chores. So brownies are usually known for those two things, and the correct answers go to Paul and to Joe is the chorus. So thank you so much to everyone who submitted answers, and I hope that you guys will play with me again this week. If you'd like to join the trivia question, it is going to be on the blog, fantasyfictionfanatics.net. Go ahead over to the right-hand side. You scroll down just a little bit on desktop, and it will be right there. If you're on mobile, you'll have to scroll almost all the way down, but it will be there. So yeah, hopefully you guys will play with me this next week and see if you get the answer correct. Alright, let's go ahead and jump in just with a quick recap about the book. So at the beginning of this book, Nevada helps a family who is missing their daughter by disguising herself and using her powers to interrogate a man who knew where their child was being kept. Then Augustine sends Cornelius to her in order to help him find the person who killed his wife. So he ends up hiring her, and she accepts. And Rogan, in the end, ends up getting involved, of course, with this as well, and ends up being hired by Cornelius as well to help find his wife's killer. So Nevada and him are both working for Cornelius and trying to find the correct murderer. As they investigate, they continue to be attacked several different times, in which case they then must defend themselves, and at one time the warehouse as well, and continue to use these attacks to learn more about their enemy and about who is the killer at this point. And they survive, of course, and continue to push forward with their investigation. Eventually, Victoria Tremaine enters the picture, and she is coming to find out who Nevada is because she is Nevada's paternal grandmother, which she never knew about. So Nevada puts a fake barrier on Augustine's mind so that way he will not be able to give Victoria the information that she wants about Nevada. And then Rogan and Nevada end up putting a lot of the pieces together. They find out some big names are involved in this conspiracy, involved in Cornelius' wife's death, and they end up giving that information to Lenora in order to set up the abilities for the houses to go against each other and to kind of prevent what's continuing to roll down by being able to put an attack against them. And so Rogan and Nevada, after leaving Lenora's office, are attacked by some demons and ended up being transported to a whole nother location where they are being frozen to death very, very slowly. Nevada does end up letting them, getting them to escape by dragging Rogan out of there, and they end up getting help that they need. Though immediately afterwards, she goes to Rogan's house and they officially cement their romantic relationship. At the end, we do see that Victoria Tremaine has found her family. So they do figure out who Nari's killer is and take her down. And then we end up where Victoria Tremaine is officially knows who Nevada is and is going to be endangering her family. So let's go ahead and jump into our character developments. So we've had a couple of different characters that we talked about in depth in the last discussion with the first book, and in this book we continue to see those same characters to develop to become more mature characters, to change, to become who they're going to be based on the events that are occurring to them. So of course, let's start with our main character of Nevada. And I feel like she has some definite progression in this book. Definite filling out of her character and of her motivations and who she's going to become. She is becoming a prime in mentality. So she is realizing magically that she must be a prime. She has never taken the test, of course. She's never officially claimed what her magic is and has tried to hide it. But it is becoming more and more apparent to her that her abilities are indeed of the prime variety. And as such, she is also making decisions and being in situations where she is having to make prime type decisions, and being in that mentality of this is how you protect people and this is what you have to do when you're in these situations. So she's becoming more and more of a prime, both through her realization of how powerful her magic is, as well as being around other primes and making decisions that would normally be what a prime of a house would be doing in order to protect their house and their family or whatever else, their interests. So she is stepping up and making those decisions right from the get-go, saying, hey, we have to do this in order to stop this. And it would be the same kind of decision that possibly Rogan would make, or Augustine, or these other powerful houses. And in some ways that does scare her, that she is becoming very prime-like, which is not at all how she was before. But sometimes she has to make these tough decisions and realizes that sometimes the decisions that the primes make are the ones that are needed to be made. She has now experienced the fact that she is looked at as a monster because of her magic. And the time that the warehouse is being attacked and the one last person that they saved, she goes and grips him with his magic and just demands the truth from him, and he spills all his secrets to her, and everybody is concerned about that. They see her as a monster, as somebody who could just rip their free will away from them, and looks around and sees that everybody is very guarded and very scared of her, the same way that Rogan is feared by most people and seen as a monster. So now she has that same experience of knowing that her magic can make her be an outcast and can make her be condemned to a stigma of people looking down on her and thinking that she is a monster or a creature or something that should be contained and not let free. So that also probably contributes to her prime mentality, that now she has experienced what it's like to be such a powerful magic user and to be feared and to be treated like she is someone volatile. And, you know, she's a good person. She does fear who she is becoming. She does fear this prime mentality. She fears this magic that she is learning how to control. She fears that she is going to be somebody that she doesn't want to be and somebody who she never thought she had to worry about becoming. So I think that's a really good quality in her and in a character in general, is to recognize the choices that are being made and to then think, what does that say about her? What does that mean that she is becoming? Who it means that she is? So she's trying to make choices that are good, but then also being conscious of what those choices mean when she makes them, and knowing that she still wants to be able to look at herself in the mirror the next day. And of course, as I've mentioned a little bit already, she has exceptionally grown for magic-wise, knowing how magic works, knowing how to use circles to amplify her magic, knowing how to control her magic better and in other ways other than just, you know, being able to tell if you're telling a lie or telling the truth. So she's really growing and becoming much more of a stronger person magically. So definitely growing a whole lot and becoming a fuller version of herself, and slowly transitioning through these events that are being thrust upon her and these decisions that she's having to make. We are slowly seeing a progression of who she is going to become, probably by the end of this third book that's coming up. Of course, Nevada's not the only character to have developed in this book. Of course, our Mad Rogan, who is very rough around the edges, has really filled out to be much more of a complex character in this book. We see a lot more about his past, we see a lot more about him and who he truly is that we didn't see in the last book. And even just our perspective from knowing these things does give more depth and more complexity to our view of him as a character. For example, we see that he isn't just an unfeeling murderer who will murder anybody and everybody just because. We see that he is actually a very damaged person. He is a truly, truly damaged person based on what happened to him in the war. We see that he even stayed in the jungle during the war when he was in the military to help save everybody who would have otherwise died to save himself if he saved himself. So he travels through the jungle, gets tortured for a long time, like 14 hours I think they said he was captured. He goes through with being starved, with all the bugs and the people that he has to kill in order to get through this jungle and to see everyone through safely. So he is a truly caring person. He would not just let people die just to save himself, even when he had no real military expertise at all. He is very upset about his loyal people being killed, especially by being manipulated to kill each other. That's really, really hurt him and made him angry that he was not able to protect his people and that his people died because somebody else murdered them. And you even see that he truly does love Nevada. Not necessarily in the most typical way. He doesn't show it in the most typical way. But we do see that in the way that he does show her that he loves and cares about her and wants what's best for her and her life. And we even see that he didn't marry Rhonda. I think that's how it's Rynda, I think is Rhonda. Because he didn't want her to be doomed to a life of loneliness and unhappiness, because he didn't love her and he was never going to give her a life that she wanted, a simple life, an easy life. So he broke things off, not because he didn't like her or because he didn't think that she would give him a little bit of happiness, but because she could not really give him what he needed, a strong enough, stable enough partnership to be a happy one and to be one that can stand on its own and progress. So he didn't really want that fate on her. So we do see that he is not just an unfeeling person that will just murder anybody and everybody. We do see that he is a feeling person and he does care about people and he does think things through in order to try and make the best decisions for the group, not just himself. And not only that, but he truly has had hardships in his life. Just because he's a prime does not mean that he's just lived a life of luxury. The one thing is the military, first of all, and the whole jungle experience. That right there is traumatizing enough that makes it so he can never leave the military in his brain. But he was also chose to be homeless for a time at 16. He didn't want to follow certain rules, and so they said, okay, then go be homeless and we won't have you under this roof. So he went and he dealt with what it's like to be a homeless person, having to eat at shelters and not have any money and to sleep in boxes on the street. So he's had that experience. Sure, it is interesting that he chose that experience for himself, but he has experienced it. And he does know what that's like. So that and his time in the military have shown that he has truly borne some hardships that really have forged who he is at this moment. He went into some situations and didn't come out the same person. Also, he can be surprised. Do you think that he is so stoic, so unfeeling, so kind of controlled of the whole situation? But he does show genuine surprise, especially when little Matilda comes up and asks him to hold Bunny the cat in order to clean out his eyes. and he holds this cat for her so nicely and so you know, like his interaction with the kid is so sweet and so endearing. And he's so surprised that she would ask him, of all people, to hold the cat and to be helpful in being caring for another life. So it's definitely, I thought, was really priceless, where he is just like, what, me? Oh, okay, like he's like very surprised, very out of it, not sure how to take it. So I do find that super funny, and I find it super great to see that side of him, that he can be surprised and he can have those sweet moments, even if they are few and far between. And also his harshness and his personality, we know now, is because he can never pull himself away from that war. That's why he sees everything as being in a war, as, you know, they're being enemies and they're being allies and they're being non-combatants, and that everything in his life is so black and white, and that is why he is so harsh to people who are in his way, and that is why he acts the way he does, is just because for him, he never left that jungle, and for him that's the only way that he can cope with the world. So it's super interesting, and really adds more depth to his character and makes him a little bit more of an understandable character versus somebody who just kills people or tries to strangle them with their own clothing for no reason, or for not good enough reason, at least in Nevada's point of mind, and in most people's point of mind, I'm sure, that read it. I think it is meant to take Nevada's side in that situation. And not only that, for character developments, we also have the Baylor family. We talked a little bit about them as a unit before, but we see some developments even in the family in this book. We see Leon. He's so struggling with his magic and the fact that he thinks that he doesn't have any. But then we do know now that he does have magic. He does have that kind of projections, the trajectory for weapons and stuff like that. The fighting combat is his magic. And though he doesn't know about it quite yet, at least we haven't seen that he's been told about it, we do know that he does have it, and that's going to obviously have to play a part, considering he will have to be told, and he will then be excited to use that magic that now that he knows that he has it. With Victoria Tremaine, now we understand that she is also part of the family, even if she is not part of the family that Nevada protects or that has been around for a long time and is the most important of the family. We do see that Victoria Tremaine brings the depth of like why the magic that Nevada has is in this family, and how if her dad didn't have any magic, how she then got to have it and had just ended up skipping that generation. As well as we know that Nevada's going to now have to protect her own personal part of the family from Victoria, who's going to try and take over the family. So this added an extra conflict to the layer of the family. And then we found Catalina's magic, which is super interesting. At the end, we do find out that she is a prime, that she has the magical ability to make people love her. And they love her so much, and it grows more and more that they want to touch her, and that they want to be close to her, and that they want to then start grabbing at her, and that it's actually a very dangerous magic for her, because the second it starts, she has a hard time reeling back and letting people go, and they continue to love her more and more, and she is then in danger from her own people loving her. But it's super interesting magic. I think that is a super cool ability that's really unique and something you haven't seen in most stories. So let me know what you think of Catalina's magic. I think it's super, super interesting, and I can't wait to see more about where her magic goes. And last but not least, Arabella is another one that we see develop a little bit. Of course, we don't have too much of her and Catalina in the story, but at the end, we do know that some kind of monster appears to save Catalina and take her away. So obviously, Arabella's magic does involve her turning into some kind of monster. So I think it's super interesting that all of the magics that we have for each of the Baylor family, like we have some people who we've told straight up what it is, like with Grandma Frida, it being the tank, with Byrne, it's the computers and all that kind of stuff. With her mom, it's the shooting. And obviously we know what Nevada's is. But then Leon, we didn't know really anything about. He first thought he had no magic anyway. And we know that Arabella and Catalina had magic, but we knew nothing about it. So now we're really starting to see a full effect of like what this whole group of family does have in what they are capable of, what kind of family they could become, especially now that she's going to be starting to make a house. Now, last but not least, I do want to mention Augustine because I do feel like he grows to be much more of a notable person in this book. He actually is developing into more of a character that is, throughout this book, helpful and interacting with our characters. He even tries to steal Nevada away from Rogan by hiring her to be able to use her prime powers for his own needs and his own wants and for his company and his house. So he definitely becomes much more of a involved character, somebody who actually wants to be in the middle of things and is helping with the actual problems going on in this book and the actual conflict. So though I don't feel like I have tons to say about his development, I do feel like in this particular book he is much more of a character that is involved with everything and becomes a little bit more notable of who he is and how he interacts, and the fact that he kind of threw himself into this point where Nevada ends up having to put that block in his mind, and he has run out of options for that. So, okay. Those are all the characters that I feel like have really grown, things that have changed and developed since book 1 and through book 2. So if you have any characters you'd like to talk about, please let me know. I would love to hear your thoughts and opinions on them, and who is your favorite, of course. Go ahead and let me know down below. I would love to hear your thoughts and feelings. Next, I'd like to talk about the growth of Nevada and Rogan's relationship. So this started in book 1, and it was a notable topic that we mentioned last time, where they have this dance where they kind of are interested in each other. Especially Rogan is very interested in Nevada, and she's constantly saying no. She doesn't think that he is going to give her what she would like. And in this book, the romance and the little bit back and forth is much more prominent. It becomes very much more the forefront of the book and a big portion of the plot line. So we've got the conflict, but a little bit in front of that we've got this relationship that's building between us and or between them, and how that's growing and where that's going to be leading. So definitely revolves a lot more around the relationship portion between these two characters and their growing feelings for each other. It definitely has a lot more romantic scenes, a lot more romantic moments. We even have the ending where they officially decide to be in a relationship and go ahead and get into bed with each other. So definitely have that portion of the romance with a whole ending dedicated to it, to the actual finalization of it all. And a lot of scenes where they are teasing each other and romantically getting close, and how we see Nevada making those steps toward Rogan. And then we also see that when they are officially in the relationship, we have that little epilogue that they have that sweet little moment in the snow where they're throwing snowballs at each other and having a good time. And so we definitely have this romance as a big portion of the story now. And it is coming full throttle into the next book with them starting out with this relationship, and we're going to see where that goes. So definitely a good projection throughout this whole story that this was something that's important, and this is going to be something that impacts book 3 especially, because they will officially be in a relationship, not just doing this little cat and mouse game and back and forth. Do you like the Nevada and Rogan relationship? I'd love to let you guys, I would love to hear what you guys have to say. I don't feel like I can talk at this moment. Sorry about that. But I really like Nevada and Rogan together. I don't understand why I like Rogan so much, especially since though he's a good person, especially in this book, we learn how much of a good person he truly is. But he also has, like, he's also not. I mean, he also does have no remorse in killing people. So, I mean, there's that too. But it seems like a very interesting pairing. We got them on each end of the spectrum. Like Nevada, who's really good, has a lot of strong morals, thinks that killing people is bad, you know, don't hurt people unnecessarily. And then we got Rogan, who's like, let's kill, let's hurt people, let's do whatever we need to do in order to meet the goals. If you don't cross me and you become my ally, then you're good. If not, well, can't really do much for you. So they're very much an interesting pair, but I do feel like they do work, and I do feel like Nevada tempers him some, and that the romance is really well worked into this series. So let me know your thoughts on their relationship. I'd love to hear about it. Now, last thing I'd like to talk about is the world development that we have in this book. So we knew quite a bit from the previous book. We got a lot of development, a lot of ideas of how this world worked. But in this book, we do see a little bit more, deeper understanding, a little bit more happening. So we understand more about circles and how they are used and how they can amplify the magic. Of course, we learned about this in the first book, but now we see Nevada actively using it and Rogan actively using it. So definitely very interesting to learn more about it, see how it works in more of the spur of the moment, that kind of stuff. And we know that she studied more about magic and the circles and everything like that, even if her drawings of it is still a bit crude according to Rogan. But we see more of it and can understand a little bit deeper about how those magic circles amplify her magic, or any magic user's magic. We also see Cornelius's powers over animals, so we see a new aspect of magic, new different magic, and how it works and what can be done with it. We see him having the ferrets and the badger or whatever going through the laundry tunnels and breaking into the house in order to steal stuff from the computer. So really cool and interesting stuff there. We can see a new aspect of magic and how it works in this world and what people do with it. We see more dynamic house problems. We get to see the legal rights that they have, and personally how houses treat their members. Like with Cornelius's family, we see his sister. We know about when they go to Lenora and present their case and say, hey, we're going to do this. It's going to be a conflict between the houses, and how that has to be handled and everything like that. So definitely interesting to see the different aspects now of like house politics and how magic has invented those in the first place, and how that means certain things are handled in between the different houses themselves and not with the police. And then last but not least, we do see those creatures that were summoned and that magic that can summon the creatures from the other realm and that attack Nevada and Rogan. So we see that there is some kind of other dimension or something else that magic can reach through and pull these beings out of. So we do see that there is the potential of these other places, and obviously they're not some place that you really want to go. At least I wouldn't assume you would want to go there with all those creatures, but how these people will bring those creatures into the real life world and use it for destruction. So super interesting stuff. I always have thought this world is really cool, really interesting and unique, something that's new. I haven't seen it a lot in other books that I've read, so for me, I always find it very interesting concepts to have these houses, to have magic users, and to make it a world that's more based around magic than anything else, and how that can be developed through a serum, and that is how the creation of magic in the world in general has come to exist. So super, super interesting. Of course, if there's anything that I missed or anything that you wish I talked about, go ahead and let me know down below. I would love to have a conversation with you and love to know what you think of White Hot. Of course, if down below is not the best place for you, you are also welcome to message me through my Facebook page, which is /fantasyfiction1. You're also welcome to contact me through Twitter, which is @fantasyfiction1. Would love to have a discussion with you on either place. That would be totally great. Or if you'd like to join me and your fellow fanatics in the Discord and be able to chat with everybody, myself included, you can get that link down below. We have quite a few people over there chatting and having a good time talking about different fantasy things, and we would love to hear from you over there if you want to discuss it with everybody together. And of course, I'm on there, so I will be able to chat with you as well. If you want more content from me, go ahead over to the blog fantasyfictionfanatics.net. I've got tons of stuff over there. Book recommendations. I've got, book reviews. I know I have some on here as well, but that's all written up over there if you want to check out that, and it has more details. I've got different deliberations where I talk about different things about reading or fantasy and talk about my thoughts and feelings on them. Got a couple of personal things on there about me and my enjoyment of reading fantasy and that kind of stuff. And lots of other things. So of course you're welcome to request anything you'd like to see from me either on here or on the blog, and I would be happy to accommodate you. But I guess that is it for today. So I guess until next time, I'll see you guys later. Bye.